awareness of risk factors is essential because it helps us to keep an eye on these children as adults around these children, both in a school environment or at home or even in the community. It helps us to be able to, pick up when a child is experiencing mental health issues. So the factors that I'm going to be discussing about, I'm going to be in 4 categories, and these are factors that put a child at risk of developing mental health issues. And these are going to be personal factors, social factors, school factors, and family factors. Personal factors have to do with the child themselves. This is personal characteristics. For example, some children are overly anxious. Now, if we are aware that a child is overly anxious in a school setting, in a classroom, then what we do have to do is to adopt the activities to suit this child. At home, if we know that this child is overly anxious or fearful, then we don't have to challenge them with activities or with whatever it is, that situations that will aggravate their anxiety. Now, some children are also non-compliant. They just don't want to comply at all. And, this is the person that they are. Knowing that they're non-compliant means that we don't have to come up with unnecessary conclusions or assumptions when we think that they're, misbehaving or they're displaying undesirable behaviors. Children also have learning disabilities or learning difficulties. I've worked with, children who, have learning disabilities and they can't read well or they're quite slow in their problem solving. Being aware of that is important because when we are aware of that, we again adopt activities to suit them. We again avoid anything that will aggravate mental health problems. Some children have poor attachment. And if we know that a child has poor attachment, for instance, children who are looked after, who are in care, these children, have gone through so much, it's most likely that they will have attachment issues. And if they do have attachment issues and we have some knowledge about attachment, then we have to do whatever we can to ensure that we don't put them at risk of, suffering mental health crisis, because something could happen. We could do something. We could engage them in some activity that could lead to mental health breakdown. Let's go to social factors. Social factors could also put children at risk. For instance, children could be rejected by their peers. And if we notice that a child is being rejected by their peers, say for instance, I've had a situation where, child has been, rejected by friends in the sense that every time that she walked to them, they would walk away. This particular child I'm talking about, it was reported to me by a student mentor. And this child, every time she would walk to them during lunchtime, sit on the same desk table with them, they would walk away. That is a sign of rejection. So this mentor was very good. She was concerned. She came to me and said, this is what is happening. We had to investigate. And indeed, this child was being isolated. So we need to be aware of risk factors, of such a nature. Also, children could be bullied or they bully others. Children who bully others have problems themselves. And it's also important that they're looked after. They're given the support that they need because it's most likely that they're trying to cope with something. And children who are bullied also need help. So that is the social factors that would, put children at risk of mental health issues. If within the family, we would find that some families have inconsistent supervision. They cannot supervise their children well. Because of that, children's needs are not met. If we are aware of that, then we have to really keep an eye on that. Some families lack warmth or affection. It could be a culture thing. In some cultures, there is no warmth, there is no love, there is no affection. In some cultures, boys are not shown affection. We need to be aware of that. And if we see that a child is trying to bring up signs or display the symptoms of the need for affection, then that is indicative of a risk to mental health problems or issues. Now, unfortunately, some children are raised around substance misuse, and if that is the case, then we need to take the necessary steps to see that this environment that the children are being raised in, or the child is being raised in, does not affect their mental health. That also applies to family violence and domestic violence. It affects children greatly. I've worked with children who've been affected by domestic violence in the home. I've worked with adults who were victims of domestic violence at a very early age, and they grew up in this family where the parents fought every day, and there was quite a lot of violence. And when they grew up with this sort of fear, this lack of trust, and that eventually affected them as they as adults, and they ended up on my caseload. So we need to be aware of these factors. Another thing as well, this is specifically for parents, the school factors. School could be a risk factor as well, where they don't have good supervision, there is no good management. Child could be bullied and nobody knows about it. A child could be ill, could not be performing well, could be going through issues, and the teachers do not pick it up, the frontline staff do not pick up such difficulties that the child could be going through. As a parent, you have to be tuned in and be able to get that help for your child. If you note that there is a problem that is coming from school, then contact the school and let the school know. At times the child could be struggling academically. Now, I had this child that was referred to me because they were struggling academically, but that wasn't the reason they were referred to me. They were referred to me because they were displaying unwanted behaviors. But that is a way that the child was coping. Now, the teachers did not know that. The learning support team did not know that. The teaching assistants did not know that. They just thought the child was displaying unhelpful behaviors or was engaging in unhelpful behaviors. But after having a good chat with the child, the child disclosed that they were not performing as they wanted. But nobody had picked up on that. The parents had not picked up on that, and the teachers were not concerned. But academic failure was the main problem in this particular case. So as a parent, you have to be aware of that. And as a teacher, you have to know that if a child has been performing well and all of a sudden you start noticing that they're not performing well academically, then you have to do something about it. Now, some children have issues with attachment, as I have mentioned before, and could be a personal issue, personal factor. But where they're not attaching well with the school or school staff, that is a concern, and something has to be done about it. If you notice, as a teacher or frontline staff, or working with this child, and you notice that the child is not attaching well, that is a factor that you should not overlook. You have to investigate and get help for this child, because this child is most likely to be suffering from something or experiencing something that is not good, that is not putting them in a position of good mental health. So those are the factors that we need to look out for.